So then we'll move on to Square Enix. See how much time I have here before my battery dies. Oh, I have a little bit of time, so I can touch on Square Enix for a little bit. Not a bad conference from their very first time, but it was kind of lackluster as well. Phil Rogers, the CEO of the American and European divisions of Square Enix, comes out to introduce the conference. He gives a shout out to the Square Enix Collective. That's the initiative they did where fans get to choose which games that get to be a reality with the company, so the company can divert some resources into making that game a reality for the fans that voted on this game. That's pretty cool to see that successful, because the more fans have a say in how a video game is created, the better it's going to be. That's just how it is. Roland Lesterland comes out, who is the game director of Avalanche Studios, and he of course comes out to introduce Just Cause 3. This game will have a new wingsuit. It'll have the ability to use multiple grappling hooks, so you can cause even more mayhem. It showed a video of just ridiculousness where multiple grapple hooks were shown, like to take choppers out of the sky and like treat them as fucking kites and like knock them into each other so they explode. It's fucking nonsense. But that's what Just Cause 3 really does great. I haven't played that much of it personally, which is a shame. I just don't have time. There's so many games I want to play in so little time. But from what I've seen of it, it's really, really cool. It's like the ultimate sandbox game where you just get to live out every action movie fantasy you'd ever want to make. It's like Michael Bay the game, pretty much. Though that's a little insulting. I would say it's much better than that, but you get the idea. Explosions fucking everywhere, non-stop, adrenaline pumping action. Like, that's what Just Cause is. Multiple grappling hooks, a new wingsuit, and this new sandbox world that they're saying is literally going to be 400 square miles, which is pretty fucking big. And there's going to be unlimited C4, so you can have, yo dog, I heard you like explosions, so we're going to give you unlimited C4 to put explosions in your explosions. How about that, bitch? Looks really cool. Actually comes out December 1st for our current gen platforms, PS4, Xbox One, PC. Looks cool. Moving on, Platinum Games in the house. A trailer briefly showing off a new Nier. If you're not familiar with Nier, I think that was on the PS3. It was a character action game for that. That has a strong cult following. And wish fucking granted, Nier 2 is in development. More info to come in fall 2015, so there was no release date for that. So, like I said, it's early in development. They even stressed it was very early in development, so at least they were honest about that. Then this Mr. Majora's Mask Moon Man motherfucker comes out, and it's revealed to be Yoko Taro, the game's director. I guess he always does this. He wears a moon on his face in public when he goes to speak about games or whatever. This is a thing he regularly does. This is the first time I've seen it. Whatever, float your boat, buddy. But he acknowledged all the messages from Nier fans to work on a new game, and he's very excited for this project, and that was that. Rise of the Tomb Raider is shown because Square Enix. A similar trailer from the Microsoft conference. Still looks amazing. Brian Horton introduces a quick behind-the-scenes featurette based on the game, how they tweaked the graphics and how they made more stuff happen on screen this time, and how great of a sequel it's going to be. A quote, he actually said, "We're putting the tombs back in Tomb Raider," which I would assume so. If on a game called Tomb Raider, I'd like to explore some tombs. Thank you very much, sir. I guess that implies that the game this is a sequel to the original Tomb Raider. I have Tomb Raider Definitive Edition for the Xbox over here. Sadly, haven't gotten to play it yet. I heard great, great things. I remember playing the old Tomb Raider games. They were okay. I played them briefly. I don't think I even beat one of them. I got pretty far in Tomb Raider 2. That was about it. So I'm looking to play through that. And eventually I'll get this. It looks really good. No complaints here. Patrick Nond, moving on, the head of Square Enix Montreal, comes out to talk about mobile games. Mobile games. Yeah. I love mobile. Yeah. Apparently Hitman Go, the mobile version of the Hitman games obviously, was such a smashing success that they had to take that, and not only are they making a sequel to Hitman Go called Hitman Sniper, but they're giving that same they're giving that same treatment to Tomb Raider. So you're going to have a game called Lara Croft Go, more like Go Away. I'm not the biggest, like, I can't see myself playing a game on my phone. I just can't do it. You know, if I wanted to play mobile games, I get a mobile device like a 3DS or a Vita. That's just me. Apparently people love the shit out of these games though, especially in Japan and outside the US, so that's fine, I guess, whatever. But it has a release date of coming soon, so we don't even know when this is going to be a thing. It admittedly looked pretty alright, so, you know, hey, if that's your bag, go for it. Quick games reel was shown of stuff I guess they couldn't go on to length to talk about, so they threw in a quick Sony-like game reel. Heavensward was shown, the Final Fantasy XIV expansion that I think is out now or is coming out. Life is Strange got a shout out. Dragon Quest Heroes: The World, Trees, Woe, and the Blight Below is what it's called. To me, it just looks like a Dynasty Warriors ripoff, like an action game, but who knows. Then after that, the real Shinji Hashimoto comes out, and he's the executive producer of the Kingdom Hearts series. And he comes out to introduce God knows what, since he didn't have a translator. The translator kind of goofed. Like, he kept talking in Japanese, and the translator, I guess, was, you know, busy cracking open a drink or something like that, because this is the only part, this is the only speaker he didn't translate at all. I don't know if his audio didn't go through, or he's completely forgot to translate him, so we had no idea what he was talking about. At least I didn't. But the Final Fantasy VII Remake spot is shown again. Same exact trailer from the Sony conference, but this time it has a new tagline. It says, "More to come this winter." So I'm assuming more details will come out then. It was also revealed that an HD remake of the original game still seems to be coming out to iOS. So if you wanted to play Final Fantasy VII on your phone, wish fucking granted very soon. Kingdom Hearts is also going to get a cell phone game. So hey, keep that phone handy, kids. Unchained Key is the name of the first Kingdom Hearts cell phone game. Like, they say that with pride. The very first the very first Kingdom Hearts cell phone game. Like, that's some kind of, like, earth-shattering announcement. You know what I mean? Like I said, Japan, so whatever. That's now in development for iOS and Android. Speaking of now in development, Kingdom Hearts 3 finally showed a lengthy gameplay trailer after it was teased last year. Looks pretty fucking good. My only problem with this trailer is at the very end of it, where the placeholder is for the release date. Like, oh wow, this seems to be in, you know, pretty far in development now than it was last year. So when's it going to come out? And the release date is shown, and it says now in development. You don't fucking say. No shit. Of course it's in development. When the fuck is it coming out? Well, they're making Kingdom Hearts 3. It's in development now. So it wasn't in development last year? I don't know. So who knows when that's coming out. So look for that in like the next 2 years, I guess. I have no fucking clue. Hopefully we get more info on that. Then we go on to World of Final Fantasy. Again, same exact trailer from the Sony conference was shown. Hiroki Chiba comes out to give the impression that it's more of a casual title for new fans to become interested in the series. That vibe kind of reminds me of Final Fantasy Mystic Quest for the Super Nintendo, which was also a good game. You know, it's a more, like he says, entry-level series. It's not as heavy on like the mechanics as a typical Final Fantasy game. It's more for casual people, so that's fine. Next on the menu was Hitman. No subtitle and not a sequel, so I'm assuming it's a reboot, just like pretty much anything else is a reboot nowadays. Gives a strong impression of a reboot. Trailers shown. That comes out December 8th digitally on all current gen platforms, and we'll have a physical release later on, I guess. I don't know if they're using that to test the waters and to, like, you know, to make digital releases more of a majority. I'm not sure. As far as the game goes, yeah, you know, sure is a Hitman game. Has Agent 47 in it. He's sneaking through. He has targets. He kills people. It's Hitman. I don't know exactly where it's going to fit in on the timeline. I'm sure Square Enix doesn't really give a shit about the timeline, but You know, it's Hitman, and it's coming out, and it looks pretty good. Moving on. That's all I really have to say about it. Another game's reel is shown. Hitman Sniper, which I mentioned before, the aforementioned mobile game. Triad Wars is briefly shown. What Triad Wars is, it's a free-to-play spin-off of Sleeping Dogs. If you're a fan of that, that's yet another game I have sitting over there. I haven't had time to play. So many games. Too many games, you could say. But yeah, Triad Wars, that's coming out soon-ish. And also they showed a small reel of Final Fantasy 15. Final Fantasy 15 gets the treatment in Square Enix's first ever separate E3 conference as like a highlight reel that's maybe 45 seconds long. Great! Nice to see Square Enix has their priorities in order. Like why would you throw Final Fantasy 15, which is probably one of your most, if not your most anticipated title, next to something like Rise of the Tomb Raider is highly anticipated as well, but I'm talking for like old school Squaresoft fans. Why would you throw Final Fantasy 15 into that specific kind of time slot and show Kingdom Hearts 3, like show a good 5 minutes of gameplay and have no release date? Like what? I don't know what's going on there. Star Ocean. There's a name we haven't heard in a while. Star Ocean, Integrity and Faithlessness. A trailer shown for that. Tri-Ace is back to direct the game as always. I think they've been behind all of the Star Ocean entries in the series. 2016 release date on PS4 in North America and Europe, but it comes out later this year in Japan. So we're coming to the end of Square here. Deus Ex Mankind Divided, there's a gameplay trailer of that. We all knew that was going to make an appearance here at E3. Adam Jensen returns from Human Revolution, which this is a direct sequel to that, I believe. New weapons and gadgets, like you'd expect. Early 2016 release for current-gen platforms. A Deus Ex Universe iOS and Android app is shown that can be used to get bonus content for the game. I don't remember them specifying exactly what the bonus content is going to be, but it's going to be there. So yet another Square Enix cell phone app you can get on your system there. And finally, we come to the end of the conference, and this is where it gets weird. The president of Square Enix Holdings, Yusuke Matsuda, comes out. He comes out to blow everyone away with this big announcement. You know what that announcement is going to be? It's going to be a Final Fantasy Portal app. Another cell phone app. Contains information about the series. We don't know exactly what. Is it going to be a bestiary? Is it going to be concept art? Is it going to be hentai? Like, I don't know. It's a Final Fantasy app. It has Final Fantasy stuff in it. Download it, I guess. Yeah, English version coming this summer. I guess it's already out in Japan. But then he also made a much bigger announcement, though I don't know what could be bigger than a Final Fantasy Portal app announcement. But he goes on to talk about this new RPG called Project Setsuna by a newly established studio named Tokyo RPG Factory. This is interesting. Probably the most legitimately interesting thing to me in this whole conference. A couple still images are shown. They showed art of like a couple scenes that may or may not be in the game. I guess they put that there to excite people, and I don't know who would get excited for, two pictures of concept art, but whatever. Yeah, I said a couple still images are shown. I'm supposed to be excited about this, because I'm not. I'm excited at the concept of this RPG studio being assembled from veterans from Square Enix when they used to be Squaresoft, maybe back in those days, and making good old school JRPGs again, because the circle's coming back over, where JRPGs were huge in the 90s. Then the Western RPGs in the 2000s kind of took over with the Elder Scrolls games, Fallout, stuff like that, where people preferred those. now it looks like there may be another shift going on where JRPGs could make a comeback, and I hope so, because I'm kind of more partial to those since I grew up with those in the 8-bit and 16-bit era, so it'd be nice to see more quality JRPGs to go out there, and who better to do it than Square Enix? They have the IPs, I'm sure they have the experience. Hey, I hope, I'll be keeping an eye on this studio and seeing what they're producing. But, on the flip side of it, it looks nothing like any established series fans want to come out, so fuck Chrono Trigger, I guess, and fuck the Chrono series. I think Chrono Cross is all we're ever going to get, unless some sort of spiritual successor comes out of nowhere on, like, Kickstarter or something like that. You never know, but don't hold your breath from what I can see. This RPG, Project Setsuna, that's obviously not the final name of it. Like, I don't know, who knows what this name is going to be, but whatever it is, it's coming out for 2016. So, brace yourselves for that. Hopefully it's good. Hopefully, like I said, it goes back to basics and what made Square a household name in the first place, but we'll see. Then we get to the PC Gaming Conference. This conference was one of the biggest wastes of time I've ever subjected myself to. And a PC gaming conference at E3, PC gaming is big, no doubt about it. It looks good on paper, but the execution, I don't think they could have executed this conference any more poorly than they already did. It had this weird talk show, late night show kind of vibe to it, where this nerf herder named fucking Day 9, I don't know, maybe this guy's famous, I don't know what he's famous for, I've never heard of the motherfucker. Yeah, but this guy, he's like a few notches below Aisha Tyler in terms of personality. He's not like a corporate drone, must look this way, must be excited, must read teleprompter, exclusive DLC. He was nothing like that, at least, thank God. But it was just weird, man. This didn't do anything for me at all. I legitimately almost fell asleep like halfway through this thing. So I made abbreviated notes here. If I missed something, I'm sorry. But this was the only conference that I did watch a second time. I couldn't. No, sorry. I'm dedicated, but I'm not insane. Well, not totally insane. Anyway, but seriously, Killing Floor 2 was the first trailer that was shown. That's coming out. Free content pack is upcoming for that. No stat resetting, so if you're playing the beta to Killing Floor 2, don't be afraid your stats are going to reset, because according to Tripwire, they're not. Speaking of Tripwire, they revealed a whole new game called Rising Storm 2 Vietnam. So there's a new Rising Storm coming out. Next was a message from Chris Roberts, who's obviously working on Star Citizen. Mocap and other development is being done on the game currently. And this guy had the balls to come out and say that, well, since he's doing all this work on Star Citizen, he won't be there at the conference this year, but he'll be at the PC Gaming Conference next year. I'm like, there's going to be a PC Gaming Conference this year? Or next year? It better be radically fucking different from what I saw. Because, wow, this was bad. It wasn't even so bad it's good. It was just boring, which is like one of the worst insults you can give anything. Like, if you play a bad game or something, at least you can riff on it. You know what I mean? Like, you can get pissed off about it. Like, it triggers your emotions somehow. This, nothing. Next, AMD's chief gaming scientist shows off the AMD Radeon R7 360 for the three of you who care about that. Yeah, I should say that AMD had a very heavy hand in financially backing this conference, so it was kind of it was kind of a marketing thing for AMD sometimes. Let's see. I have a cat on my notes. Let's see. Next was Deus Ex: Mankind Divided. We just saw it in the Square. We just saw it in Square Enix's conference, so it showed here again because PC, I guess. Total War Warhammer is shown. That's kind of cool. Like I just said, it's a new Total War game with the Warhammer universe, the old school Warhammer, not Warhammer 40k. Phil Spencer comes out. This guy's been busy this year. Reiterated that Microsoft will make PC gaming more of a priority with Windows 10. I also believe he made a quote at this conference, I'm not entirely sure, where he did acknowledge the mistakes Microsoft has made with neglecting PC gaming. I'd say in the last decade or even the last 15 years, which, they kind of have. So, admitting you have a problem is the first step to recovery. And then he made the announcement, and it'll show you how sad this was when it was one of the best announcements to come out of this godforsaken conference, and that's Killer Instinct is coming to PC. I guess there's going to be cross-platform play between Xbox and PC. Not 100% sure on that, but I don't see why there wouldn't be, because they're really pushing the Xbox One controller for the PC. They haven't specified an exact date, but it is coming, so that's cool. Which is great for PC people, because Killer Instinct, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best fighting games I ever played. I'm not a huge fighting game. I'm not gonna sign up for an Evo tournament anytime soon, but I kind of like dabbling in it here and there, kind of like sports games and stuff like that. And Killer Instinct is definitely one of the better ones I've played, so it's cool to see that. It's great how they've brought Killer Instinct back. It's one of the the better, if not one of the best ways you can reboot a series that's been dormant for so many years. So they've been doing a good job with that. I can't wait for PC people to check it out and actually have a solid fighting game on their hands on the PC, besides Street Fighter. Fable Legends there's a trailer showing off cross-platform play. Fable Legends go fuck itself. Years of content coming. That's cute. I like how they assume people are going to be playing Fable fucking Legends for fucking years. Yeah. Because that's the next World of Warcraft, right, guys? Not a big enough eye roll for that. Rod Ferguson comes out again. Gears of War Ultimate Edition will also see a PC release date. Welcome to 2007, I guess, because that's when the first Gears of War was released. They were going to release Gears of War 2 and I believe the rest of them on PC, but that's when Cliff Bleszinski went after PC gamers, calling us all filthy pirates, and that's why he's not releasing Gears 2. And all I can say to Cliffy B is that I'm sick of these people that blame their low PC game sales on piracy. Well, if your game was worth a shit, people wouldn't pirate it. They'd buy it. They'd support it. People are doing it on Steam now. It's not our fault you signed some kind of exclusivity deal where Gears of War wouldn't show up on Steam, because if it showed up on Steam, which is the main platform while people play PC games on, then maybe it would have sold more. But hey, just blame piracy, because that's easy to do and makes you look like an asshole, so whatever. Euro Truck Simulator, moving on, that was shown. Maps made with Google Maps. One of the captions in the trailer was, "It's not driving, it's trucking." Okay. Eve Valkyrie is shown. There's a small VR game spot. We've seen this before. Co-creator of DayZ comes out. Dean Hall to talk about Ion some more, that I mentioned back in the Microsoft conference. Still doesn't make any sense. I still don't know what the fuck this game is. Live demo of Strafe is shown. This was fucking cool. If you love old school DOS shooters, check out Strafe. This is a classic pixel-based DOS-like first-person shooter if you've never played it before. Looks more like Doom than what Bethesda showed. It has that old-school shooter feel that I went on and on and on about during my Bethesda segment here. It looks great. I mean, I hope it does well. I hope it sells well for the guys, and I hope they do future work. Moving on with that. Pillars of Eternity is getting expansion called The White Marsh Part 1. It's going to have a higher level cap, new abilities, new companions, new stuff. Creator of Elite, David Braben, comes out and shows off a new game called Planet Coaster, which looks more on the lines of something like Roller Coaster Tycoon, stuff like that, so you're going to have another one of those. Guild Wars 2 is going to have an expansion called Heart of Thorns. They touted the world-exclusive Guild Hall feature that I guess is coming to Guild Wars 2 for the first time. The whole thing with that is you're going to be able to capture maps for your guild against dragons and other PvE elements and stuff like that. And it's more about like capturing territories for your clan and stuff like that. Pre-purchase option was available then at the announcement, so you can go ahead and pre-purchase that. Oh yeah, we haven't seen this before. Hitman is shown. Again, this is the third fucking time we've heard about Hitman at E3, so Hitman. Hey guys, there's a new Hitman coming out. Maybe you heard of it, I don't know, but here it is a third time. Just so you know, Hitman. Then when this couldn't get any more redundant, we have to put up with the CEO of AMD, Lisa Su, comes out. Talks about 9 different graphics cards. I don't know which graphics cards they were. I don't know what they do. I don't fucking care. I'm here to see games. I'm not here to see PC hardware, okay? If I wanted to research PC hardware, I can do it myself. Fuck. But, like I said, they sponsored the conference, so they gotta have their little marketing shindig segment, or whatever the hell you want to call it. After that's over, Arma 3, a trailer is shown for that. Sharita Halito presenting Beyond Eyes again. This is the third time this has been shown at E3. We get it. Paul Wedgwood from Splash Damage is presenting, they presented a game called Dirty Bomb. That was shown. Fulbright Games, the makers of Gone Home, present Tacoma again. We saw this at the Microsoft conference. Here it is again. It's the first-person exploration game in space that comes out next year. If this sounds boring, just imagine watching it. Soma comes out from the makers of Amnesia Dark Descent on September 22nd. It's an Amnesia-like game. Brian Hicks is a DayZ designer who brings out some new info about the game. They're rolling out 3 vehicles and other new content. Single-player option for DayZ is also coming. We don't know exactly when, but they're working on it. Take on Mars by Bohemia Interactive is shown. I'm about to fall asleep at this point. Cliff Bleszinski comes out, shows off Project Blue Streak, which I guess is a new shooter he's working on. After taking a break from the industry for a few years, I think he did. I'm not sure. Upcoming demo for Enter the Gungeon. And this is something that finally caught my attention again. It's a bullet hell dungeon crawler. Kind of interesting. It has a top-down view, and it looks like a 16-bit game where you're a little guy just loaded with ammunition, just shooting the fucking shit out of everything. And it shows like these big boss battles. Like it kind of had a Zelda Link to the Past vibe to it, just a little bit, just like the aesthetic of it a little bit. But like imagine a view like more drawn out and more like a shoot 'em up kind of style. It looks really cool. I hope this comes off with. I hope this comes to other platforms, especially the Xbox One, because if it did, I'd give it a try. Then Blizzard comes out. Expansion for Heroes of the Storm, Eternal Conflict. Fuck off with this MOBA shit already. Then they also announced the conclusion for StarCraft 2, Legacy of the Void is coming very soon. Trailers shown for that. Beta comes out next month for those that want to partake in it. And the final game they showed for this conference, you're not going to believe it. It's something we've never seen before. You know, it's just, I'm sure it just blew everyone away. And you know what the final game is they showed at the very first ever E3 PC game conference? They showed No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky. Hey guys, this new awesome game is coming to PC. You're not going to believe it. No Man's Sky. Bet you never heard of that before. No, we've been hearing about it for like 2 fucking years now and we're sick of it. So No Man's Sky is getting a simultaneous release on PC and PS4. My opinion hasn't changed about No Man's Sky. It looks ambitious. It looks good. I don't know exactly what the fuck you do in it. We'll see when it comes out exactly what it does or how it is or what the hell it's actually supposed to be, other than going to 2,000 different planets to do nothing. I don't know. That game, it's got to win me over. Like, I don't hate it, but I'm sick of hearing about it, and you know, I want to be excited about it, but I don't know how. So yeah, that was the PC Game Conference. 3 fucking hours of nothing. Nothing. This was, oh, this hurt more than watching Doom at Bethesda the first time. So boring. God. It's pretty sad when you have a PC game conference show up at E3 for the very first time. I do not see this coming back next year. I really don't. I mean, if they're going to bring this back next year, they better make some big fucking changes. Like, I don't even... If this comes back next year, I don't even want to recognize this format of what it was. They need to just dial everything back in. They need to shorten it. They need to make it more to the point. They need to get the marketing fucking bullshit out of there. You know what I mean? Like, fuck, man. It's pretty telling how bad this conference was when Valve makes the one platform like virtually every PC game is played on right now, and they wouldn't show up to this piece of shit. What does that tell you? Enough said. And really all that's left, guys, is the floor demos, which is the miscellaneous announcements I've done for other years. A few interesting things. I'll go through them real quick, and that's it. I'll wrap this up. First up, we have from 13 AM Games, we have a game called Runbow for the Wii U. It's a 9-player party platform racing game. The demo is out now on the eShop. Pretty neat it looks, so check that out if that sounds appealing to you. Next, we have the lineup from 2K Games. First one is going to be Battleborn, aka Not Borderlands. That's what I like to call it. It's a cel-shaded FPS that is very similar to Borderlands. Has a solo campaign, a co-op mode, and PvP modes. 25 playable characters. It looks a lot like Borderlands. So check that out. If you're a Borderlands fan, I would definitely check that out because it looks like Borderlands on steroids pretty much. And this is what Randy Pitchford kind of described the game as at one of the GameSpot spots at E3. There was Civilization Beyond Earth Rising Tide, which is obviously an expansion pack. It pushes the game timeline further into the future. 4 new factions as well as other new content. That comes out this fall for PC first, followed by Mac and Linux releases shortly afterwards. WWE 2K16 is a thing. That's promising to have the largest roster yet in a WWE game. That comes out October 27th in North America, October 30th in Europe. Finally, from 2K Games, we have XCOM 2, which is the sequel to the reboot XCOM Enemy Unknown. Not the one in the 90s, but the more recent one. Takes place 20 years after the first game and assumes the aliens took over. You have a mobile flying base to stay one step ahead of the aliens while trying to rebuild the XCOM unit to its once former glory. That comes out in November. From 505 Games, we have a game called Absu, which is a third-person underwater exploration game. I think this was teased last year at E3 as well, but it was shown a little bit more in depth here. No hard-coded objectives, just a mysterious world to explore and get lost in underwater. That comes out early 2016. A game called Adrift was announced. That's an adventure game where you float through space in first person to try and repair a wrecked spaceship and return home. Adam Orth is directing it. If that doesn't sound familiar, he's the member of the band Weezer, if you're familiar with them. Slated for a September 2015 release is Adrift. Looks kind of cool, actually. Then we move on to Assetto Corsa. This is a popular racing sim being released on console to try and steal some of Forza's and Gran Turismo's thunder. That comes out in 2016. Brothers: A Tale of Two Sons, that's getting a console release. If that sounds familiar, was released on the PC. An interesting looking puzzle game where two brothers are controlled with the same controller but separately. Like, I think the big brother is controlled with like the left stick and the right stick controls the little brother, and you have to solve puzzles. And the whole point of the game is their father has become sick, become very ill, and there's a fountain or spring that contains the cure to whatever is ailing him, and the two brothers have to go retrieve it. So it looks kind of cool. I'll keep an eye on that. The console release is going to come out sometime this year for Xbox One and PS4. I'm not exactly when. Payday 2 Crime Wave Edition. That had a spot at E3 for PS4 and Xbox One. It's the definitive edition of the popular Crime Spree co-op game featuring updated graphics as well as DLC content. It was released on June 12th, so it's been out for a little while now. Heard it was borked at launch, so buyer beware. There's a little bit of controversy going on with that, where they've been very slow to patch this game, this release, and a lot of people are pissed off about it. It may still have problems. I think a patch may or may not have been released that alleviates some of the issues, but I would definitely do some research on this one if that's something you're interested in picking up. But yeah, it's not in the greatest condition since it's launched last month. Overkill's The Walking Dead was announced. This is from the makers of Payday, and is an FPS based on the popular TV show and comic book series. A co-op game that will also have VR support, so that's going to be in there. It's set in Washington, D.C., but the exact time that it takes place in during the whole timeline of The Walking Dead is a little bit sketchy. It's kind of unspecified. We don't know when exactly it takes place. That comes out next year. We're going to move on to Activision. They announced Guitar Hero Live. Has a new 6-button layout on a redesigned controller, the plastic guitar controller, of course, as well as the ability to play while an FMV of a concert plays in the background. So instead of like CGI people from the earlier Guitar Hero games that you played in a band with, this you're actually, like, they captured footage of, I guess, someone on stage during a concert, and that's what you're actually seeing, and that's what you're actually playing for. So it's supposed to give a little bit more realism, I guess. No backwards compatibility with songs from past versions of the game at all. I don't know if that's set in stone, but that sucks. That sucks balls either way, because Guitar Hero had a lot of fucking DLC. A lot of people bought a lot of it. That comes out this fall. If you're a Guitar Hero fan, if that appeals to you, it comes out this fall. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 5. This was kind of interesting. Built by Tony Hawk himself as a back-to-basics approach of what made the early games great. I wrote here, thank God. Because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater was a great game because it wasn't complicated. Tony Hawk was one of the quintessential games where it was easy to pick up, but it was very difficult to master. It's nice to see them going back to what made the game great in maybe the first 2, maybe 3 games. And it's going to have, I saw some news where it's going to have, like, you'll be able to play with, you'll be able to skate with friends in multiplayer, like over the internet. You'll be able to build your own skate parks and stuff like that, so that's pretty cool. I really hope this game captures some of the former glory the early games did. That comes out later this year, no date. Transformers Devastation, this is cool. Fantastic looking cel-shaded character action game. A third-person brawler based on the classic era of Transformers. It comes out this fall. Why should you give a shit about this? 2 words. Platinum Games is developing this game, and it looks just like a Platinum Games game would. It's a third-person action game. So if you're familiar with Legend of Korra, Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance, it's not as complicated as Revengeance, at least it doesn't look it, but it's in that vein of action, that kind of gameplay, so it's kind of interesting. The Astronauts, they are making the PS4 version of The Vanishing of Ethan Carter. It's an open world mystery exploration game coming out to PS4 this year. Atlas announced 2 games. Persona 4 Dancing All Night, that's coming to the Vita in North America on September 29th, so keep an eye out for that. Also, I guess Persona 5 was at the show, I'm not exactly sure, but that's coming out this year. We just don't know exactly when, but we know it's going to come out for the PS3 and the PS4. Autumn Games announced Skullgirls, the second encore for PS4 and Vita. That comes out later this year, no exact date. Bandai Namco Entertainment, their games they had to show, first being Dark Souls 3, that was briefly teased at the Microsoft conference. No gameplay was shown, but will incorporate the best elements of past games along with new enemies and abilities. So it's kind of, the way they're kind of billing it is kind of like a greatest hits kind of thing, but not exactly the same. Like I just said, they're looking to take what was great about the earlier games and make a whole new game and build upon that. So I can't wait to see it. After playing Bloodborne, you can call myself a newly christened Souls fan. I thought the game was spectacular, so I'll definitely be keeping my eye on this. But I got a lot of catching up to do because I still haven't played Dark Souls 1, Dark Souls 2, Demon Souls I haven't played. I just played Bloodborne. I just went through that once. I didn't even finish everything in Bloodborne. Fucking games are huge. Naruto Shippuden, Ultimate Ninja Storm 2. That's coming out for current gen platforms. 3D fighting game. First Naruto game on the PS4 and Xbox One. That comes out later this year. For you Naruto fans, Project X Zone 2 for the 3DS was announced. More turn-based action on the 3DS, like the first game. It has characters from Yakuza, Tekken, Mega Man X, Virtua Fighter, Tales of Vesperia, and Street Fighter. That comes out this fall. Let's see what else we have here. Blizzard briefly showed Overwatch for the PC. It's a multiplayer FPS that has shades of Team Fortress 2 in it. It's one of those team-based games. Looks fun, enters closed beta later this year. It's PC only for now. They haven't come out and said, fuck consoles, it's never going to be on consoles, so we'll see what happens with that. Bohemia Interactive announced, I mentioned these during my brief explanation of the PC Game Conference, Arma 3, Tanoa for the PC, and Take on Mars for the PC as well. Bossa Studios is making, this was kind of interesting, a game called I Am Bread, where you're bread. For the PC and PS4, for now at least, an adventure game where you play a piece of bread. Stick with me here. Can grip onto surfaces with the trigger buttons on the PS4 controller. Billed as a prequel to Surgeon Simulator. I'm not exactly sure how that works. I think they said like one of the characters in Surgeon Simulator, I don't know, like forgot his breakfast one day and left a vial of of a chemical around that makes bread self-aware. I don't know. He didn't say any of this. I'm just pulling this out of my ass, but I couldn't imagine what the story is here for it to be billed as a prequel to Surgeon Simulator of all games. But yeah, if you always wanted to play as bread, hey, wish fucking granted. Moving on to Capcom. Mega Man Legacy Collection, we already know about that. Street Fighter V, we already know about that. The other two games, they really didn't touch upon at E3, but were briefly mentioned, were Devil May Cry 4, the special edition. Deal with that is it's going to have 3 bonus playable characters, and it comes out, it actually came out earlier this month, if I'm not mistaken. The other game is going to be Resident Evil 0, the HD remaster of that. That comes out early next year, early 2016. Capybara Games, they showed off Super Time Force Ultra. That's going to get a PS4 and Vita release. That comes out later this year. CI Games announced Sniper Ghost Warrior 3. There's going to be a third one of that. It's a first-person sniper simulator that tries to go to the next step. Every kill has a consequence, focuses more on surviving after your main target has been eliminated. So they're trying to elevate that series to the next level. That comes out next year. Crytek showed off Hunt, Horrors of the Gilded Age for all current gen platforms. This was kind of interesting. An action RPG that centers around hunting down supernatural beings. Crytek has called it a spiritual successor to Darksiders. That came out of left field. Comes out later this year. The other game it was really just concept footage for a VR game called Robinson the Journey. And all I really put here is a VR prototype of an upcoming adventure game. That's all we know. Daybreak Game Company announced PlanetSide 2 for the PS4. I actually downloaded PlanetSide 2 on the PS4. It came out towards the end of June, I think. I think it came out like a week or two after E3. I played it. After an hour of it, all I really have to say was the scope of it was impressive, which that's the biggest feature it's touted for. But that is one of the most generic, bland, I was going to say vanilla, but calling it vanilla is an insult to vanilla. It's so generic and boring and has really no identity. I guess there's these factions, and I guess they each have a story of why they're capturing territories or something, but it's so uninspired. I don't even remember a thing about what it was about. One faction is Future Weapons, one faction is the big, conglomerate corporation that's trying to boss everyone around, and there was a third faction somewhere in the middle. I don't know. All I said, I played it for 60 minutes, I was so fucking bored, and I just went back to playing Battlefield. There's your PlanetSide 2 review. Moving on to Devolver Digital. Oh, and I should also mention PlanetSide 2 is free for those of you who didn't know that. You don't even need PlayStation Plus to play it on your PS4. You can just download it and play it. So, hey, give it a try if you have a PS4. You got nothing to lose except time. But I didn't care for it. Broforce was the first game on the list from Devolver Digital. That's coming out for PC, PS4, and Vita sometime this year, the full release. Shadow Warrior 2 is also going to be a thing. That is a sequel to the recent remake. That's yet another game I have sitting over there that I haven't played yet. It's going to be a sequel to the reboot, more of an evolution of the first game, better graphics and gameplay, more open environments and better looking combat. Looks badass. Comes out in 2016, so I can't wait for that to come out. Let's see, Double Fine Productions, they had Gang Beasts on their list. It's a very cool looking 4-player claymation fighting game. This one I'm actually jealous is coming out on PC, PS4, and Vita. I hope this comes out to Xbox One, and I hope it has online multiplayer. That would be really, really cool. Yeah, it just looks ridiculous, like the physics of it, with the little clay guys trying to grapple each other and like throw each other over ledges and stuff. It looks fucking sick. Then we'll go back to Focus Home Interactive. This was the single biggest surprise I think I saw at E3, other than like Rare Replay or something like that from Microsoft. Act of Aggression. It was this like PC RTS. I'm like, okay, whatever. I'll just throw it in here, just for completionist's sake, because I used to play PC games. Got to mention the PC games, right? And Eugen Systems made this game. And I'm like, Eugen Systems. That sounds so familiar. What did they make? Eugen Systems. And I looked it up. This fucking game is a sequel to Act of War. And if you haven't played Act of War, you really missed out. The full version of it's called Act of War Direct Action, and it also had an expansion pack called Act of War High Treason. What this game was, they basically picked up the ball that Command and Conquer dropped after Red Alert 2, and they picked it up and just ran with it. It's an old school base building, resource gathering RTS, and it's fantastic. It is so underrated. If you can find Act of War, I think it's on Steam, and I think yours truly actually posted in the Steam forums for it, because there's some weird shit you got to do with it. If you have a computer newer than Windows XP, it has this weird thing that I highly doubt was fixed, and I wish it would be, because this game is fantastic, where you have to lower the amount of usable memory on your system and reboot. Like you literally have to go into your memory settings or your system settings and put it down to like something like 2 gigs of RAM or 4 gigs of RAM. I don't remember exactly what it was, but I would say do that anyway, because it's worth it. It's a fantastic RTS. One of the last good RTS, if not the last good RTS I ever played on PC before I went back into my foray with consoles here. So look up Act of War, Act of Aggression. I'm very excited for this now that I know what the hell it is. That comes out in September 2015, I think. I don't know. I put a question mark here. I don't know if that's a tentative release date or an exact release date. Not sure. We'll see what happens with that. Battlefield Gothic Armada was also announced, based on the Warhammer 40K series. It's a strategy game that looks a lot more. It looks a lot more slow-paced. It looks like a lot more. It looks more like a slow-paced version of Homeworld. That's what I was trying to say. No release date given for that, so keep an eye out for that if that's your bag. Blood Bowl 2 is announced, more turn-based strategy action on the field. It looks a lot like the first game. That comes out September 22nd. Divinity Original Sin Enhanced Edition, that's getting a console release. Oh, it's also coming out for PC as well, I'm sorry. It's a prequel to Divine Divinity, if you remember that. It's kind of like a Diablo-like kind of game. There was Divine Divinity, Divine Divinity. Wow, that's a tongue twister. Then came Beyond Divinity. Now it's going to be Divinity Original Sin. That comes out for consoles this fall, and I'm assuming it comes out for PC this fall as well. Mordheim, City of the Damned. It's a turn-based tactical RPG. Not much more to say about it. That comes out on all current gen platforms. Space Hulk Deathwing. That's an upcoming FPS set in the Warhammer 40k universe. No release date for that. The Technomancer. This game was announced. It looks like an uninspired action game. I guess it's about this guy who has like, I don't know if it's telekinetic powers or something like that, but he wields a staff. There's a gameplay video of it on YouTube. You can look it up. Called the Technomancer. It looks really uninspired. It looks generic. I don't know what the deal with it is. Kind of reminded me of a futuristic version of Azaric, which is, need I say more? If you don't know what I'm talking about, go ahead and watch my Mantra series, my main video series, where I talk about Xbox games from 14 years ago no one cares about anymore. Shameless plug. Let's see, that was it for Focus Home Interactive. Harmonix. They talked about Amplitude, which is an updated version of the PS2 game that got funded by Kickstarter. This game did, not the PS2 game. That's planned for release later this year, so look for that. Rock Band 4 was obviously the other game they had. We'll have freestyle soloing. Old controllers will be compatible with the new game, but a full band bundle will be sold for $250. That includes the guitar, the bass, the drums, the game, and probably the fucking kitchen sink too. Yeah, that comes out October 26th, October 6th this year. Iron Galaxy Studios, they announced a game for the PS4 called Capsule Force. It's a fun-looking 2D side-scrolling shooter that comes out for the PS4 and PC later this year. Konami showed off the only 2 fucking games they have in development anymore, and you could probably guess what they are. Metal Gear Solid 5, The Phantom Pain, which is still slated for a September release, and Pro Evolution Soccer 2016, which I'm sure that'll come out later this year. And that's it for Konami, pretty much, in more ways than one. Level 5, they're making a game called Little Battlers Experience, an action game where customized robots battle each other in futuristic arenas. That comes out August 21st in the US and November, and it comes out in November in Europe. So August here in the States, November of 2015 in Europe. Endspace is making a game called Sword Coast Legends. This was interesting. I mentioned this briefly during one of the conferences. I forget which one. I think it was in Sony's conference. An isometric RPG that will try and bring an old school flavor back to D&D games like Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. That's really cool that someone's making a new game based on these great RPGs. From the same director that did Dragon Age Origins, comes out later this year. So hey, if you're a big Baldur's Gate fan, Neverwinter Nights, Icewind Dale, Planescape Torment, stuff like that, definitely check that out. Natsume is making, or Natsume, I'm not sure how you pronounce that. Brave Tank Hero for the 3DS and Wii U. Looks like an uninspired tank battle game by Natsume. No release date. Not that it really should matter because it didn't really do anything for me. Gotcha Racing for 3DS. Top-down racing game that shows the track through both 3DS screens. So the 2 screens work in tandem with each other. Harvest Moon, Seeds of Memories. It's Harvest Moon. Comes out later this year. And a game called Ninja Strike for the Wii U. Looks like a shitty iPad game. Get that shit away from me. Speaking of the Wii U, we have Nintendo next with their miscellaneous announcements. They had Chibi Robo Ziplash for the 3DS. A platformer for the 3DS where you play a robot that manipulates the environment with a corded plug. It looked kind of interesting. That comes out on October 9th, if that sounds like something you want to play. Earthbound Beginnings. I mentioned this before. Finally, The Other Mother. Prequel to Earthbound comes stateside, already released on the eShop, so that's out already if you want to play that. Fatal Frame Maiden of Blackwater. I have no idea why they didn't announce this in their Direct, because it only would have helped, because there's a lot of Fatal Frame fans out there. Trailer shows the ability to easily snap pictures with the Wii U gamepad and just have it be used as a camera in the game easier. That comes out this fall. Again, I don't know why they didn't mention that. They can mention, some J-pop, Fire Emblem, Shin Megami Tensei, follow-up game. But Fatal Frame, fuck that. That can just be buried in our booth somewhere. We don't care about that. Mario and Sonic at the Rio 2016 Olympic Games. Yeah. Pokemon Super Mystery Dungeon for the 3DS. You are the Pokemon this time, not a trainer. 20 characters to choose from, battle in randomized dungeons. That comes out this holiday. And that's pretty much it for Nintendo. Everything else that was listed was in their Direct this year. Paradox Interactive showed off a game called Hollow Point for the PC and PS4. This is a cool looking 2.5D shooter with a solo mode as well as 4-player co-op. That comes out later this year. That looks pretty cool. Strafe. I put looks sick and I wish this was on the Xbox. I kind of wish it was and it wasn't, because if I wanted to play an old school PC shooter, I'd want a mouse and keyboard. Actually, I'd just have a keyboard because that's how you play them. You didn't even need a mouse back then. You just needed the arrow keys, strafe, control, spacebar. Okay, got all those? Great, I'll play it. Popper Most Productions showed off Snow, an upcoming open world winter sports game, hence the word snow. Psyonix, I think their name is. They making a little game called Rocket League. Maybe you've heard of it. This is getting a little bit of hype here. A cool looking game where RC cars on a soccer field try to push the ball into the other team's goal. It reminds me of, I could swear there was in an old PC game called Monster Truck Madness. If you guys remember that, the Madness racing games by Microsoft, they're phenomenal games. Motocross Madness 2 being my favorite. I love that fucking game. But I think in Monster Truck Madness 2, or maybe it was Monster Truck Madness 64, maybe that's it. There was one mode where you raced monster trucks around, and there's this big fuck off soccer ball in the middle of the field, and you literally played soccer, and you drove around and you tried to get the ball into the other team's goal. Let's see. Yeah, it has 4-player split screen and 8-player online modes. The PS version has Sweet Tooth coming from the Twisted Metal series, which is a plus for you guys. Comes out July 7th, so by the time this video goes up, it'll already be out, so check it out. Rebellion Developments is making a game called Battlezone. If it sounds familiar, that's because it kind of is, because this is a reimagining of the classic arcade game for VR hardware, coming soon. Actually looks pretty cool, so we'll see what happens with that. Rocketworks talked about Ion. That's the game I talked about a few times. It's space and stuff, space stuff. I don't know. Then we move right on to Sega. Well, all Sega really had was Total War Warhammer. I mentioned that in the PC conference. Shinin Multimedia, they're making a game called Fast Racing Neo for the Wii U. It's a fast racing game that comes out in the absence of the sad absence of F-Zero. Has championship versus and online modes. Comes out later this year, so if you wanted a game like F-Zero but it looks a lot more generic and doesn't have the personality and charm of F-Zero, hey, check out Fast Racing Neo. Ska Studios is making a game called Salt and Sanctuary for PC, PS4, and Vita. A cool looking 2D action RPG with hand-drawn graphics where weapons will have movesets. Comes out later this year. Then we move on to the miscellaneous stuff Sony left out of their conference. There's a game called Alone With You for the PS4 and Vita. I'm sorry I couldn't find any information about Alone With You, so if that interests you or you know about it, just, hey, like, leave a comment saying what it's about, or, you know, just research on the internet what it is, because I sure as hell couldn't find anything. The Deadly Tower of Monsters is coming out for PC and PS4. It's a top-down brawler with funny dialogue and voiceovers. It's from the makers of Xenoclash for the PC. If you remember that fucking game from Steam, about, I don't know, what, 2009, somewhere around there. Drawn to Death for the PS4. It's the third-person action game by David Jaffe, who's famous for Twisted Metal. From his studio that's set inside a notebook full of words and drawings. It's kind of vulgar, it's kind of immature and stuff like that, but it doesn't really look like anything else that's coming out, so it looks kind of interesting. No release date for that, unfortunately. Fat Princess Adventures for the PS4, 4-player action game that comes out later this year. God of War 3 Remastered. It's God of War 3, but remastered. Hey, see what I did there? Guns Up for PS3, PS4, and Vita. I'm not quite sure what that is either. Journey for the PS4. Yes, it's the 2012 PS3 game that's coming to PS4 someday. no release date. Killstream for the PS4. A top-down shooter with a team swap mechanic between a 5v2v5 mechanic. What that means is there's a third team of mutants that can affect players on the other two teams. So there's 5 players and 5 players, and then there's a third party, which is actually 2 mutants, and what they can do is they can, I guess, replicate themselves in one of the team's members and like take control over their character or something weird like that. But it has no release date, but it has a MOBA vibe to it, so, you know, who knows, maybe this game will do well, maybe it won't. N++, the famous puzzle platformer, is also coming to PS4 someday, no release date. I guess Sony hates release dates, I have no idea. Ratchet and Clank, the gameplay was shown and it looks fantastic. I don't know if it's going to be a direct reimagining of the first one. I think it is. I'm not 100% sure, but hey, it's Ratchet and Clank. Ratchet and Clank is awesome. The world can always use more Ratchet and Clank, as long as it's good, and this one does look good. Tearaway Unfolded. This is going to be an expanded version of the 2013 Vita title coming out on September 9th for the PS4. So if you want more Tearaway, there you go. The Tomorrow Children for the PS4 was announced. Not a lot of info about that either. Until Dawn, I think, is the last game on Sony's list here. An adventure survival horror game coming out on August 25th. There's a lot of shit coming out at the end of August. Meant for multiple playthroughs to fully understand the story, so if you like that appeal, go ahead and pick up Until Dawn. I think it looks like one of the more promising exclusives coming out for the PS4 this year. It looks interesting. I'll keep my eye on it. Team 17 announced Galaxy, the Dimensional, a top-down shooter that is a modern take on classic arcade games, so it's one of those type shooters. Team Meat was there for Super Meat Boy's Sony release on the PS4 and the Vita. That's coming out. That game is coming out on the PS4 and Vita sometime later this year. Telltale Games is working on The Walking Dead Michonne. I think it's how you pronounce it. Michonne, something like that. A Telltale Games miniseries that tells her backstory. So I guess it was a character in the first 2 seasons of The Walking Dead from Telltale. I apologize, I haven't played those games. I'm not a big adventure game buff. I think I mentioned that before in this series of videos. But yeah, if you're interested in that side story, that's coming out for fucking everything under the sun. Android, iOS, PC, PS3, PS4, Xbox 360, Xbox One. So you most likely have something that can play that. There's not much left, guys. Versus Evil announced the Banner Saga 2. That comes out this holiday. Viva Media announced a PC game called Goliath. It's an open-world action-adventure RPG with survival elements. The twist here being gathering resources to build giant robots to defend yourself against other giant robots. That comes out early next year, so look up more info on that if that seems interesting to you. That's Goliath for the PC. Vlambeer announced Nuclear Throne, a roguelike retro game slated to come on Sony's PlayStation platform soon. Actually looks pretty cool. I think this is already on the PC, one of the PC I put here is a release platform, so I'm not quite sure. I'm sorry. It says so PC, PS3, PS4, and the Vita. It's coming out sometime soon, hopefully this year. No exact release date on that either. Warhorse Studios announced Kingdom Come Deliverance for current gen platforms. This is neat. A first-person medieval sandbox RPG made with the CryEngine. 15th century European setting. Quests with multiple solutions, dynamic weather effects, and horse riding. So this is like, yo dog, I heard you like medieval elements, so we made this medieval game with medieval elements, and then there's medieval elements in the medieval elements. It's like one of those things. That comes out next summer. So it sucks, man. That's like a running theme with this conference. Like everything that sounds really, really fucking cool is either something I can't play or something that's not coming out till next year. Sucks. But hey, at least it's something to look forward to. And Warner Brothers is next. They announced Lego Marvel's Avengers coming out for everything. Lego Dimensions, that's coming out. I don't have a description here. I don't feel I need to explain what the Lego games are. You probably know what they are by now. There's Lego Batman, Lego Lord of the Rings, Lego Harry Potter, Lego, Lego everything. I can't think of something witty as far as it goes with Lego games, but you know. But yeah, next is Mad Max. I have mixed feelings about this game. I haven't seen the new Mad Max movie yet. Everyone tells me it's like the fucking tits, and I gotta go see it. I haven't seen it yet. I actually want to go back and watch the first 3 movies before I tackle this one, but it's supposed to be just non-stop action. It's not, you know, if like it's like a Michael Bay movie that doesn't suck. So we'll see about that. That's a third-person action game where you build yourself up from scratch in the wastelands and make friends with factions while fighting against others. Looks pretty cool, so you can go out and have like vehicular combat, regular combat, invade bases, and at the same time you have your own base where you can like trick out your vehicle and stuff like that, put different weapons on it, customize the look, yada yada yada. That comes out September 1st. Way Forward Technologies, if you're not familiar with Way Forward, they announced a game called Shantae, Half Genie Hero. If you're not familiar with Shantae, it's a pretty popular platformer, an underrated platformer from what people are saying for the Game Boy. I don't know if it started on the Game Boy Color or the Game Boy Advance. But either way, this game was kickstarted. Comes out for the PC, PS3, PS4, Vita, Wii U, Xbox 360, Xbox One. So at least this game's coming out on everything. So if you want to check out what Shantae's all about, this is coming out soon. No release date for it. But this is the infamous Kickstarter game by Way Forward, 2D platforming, side-scroller, looks great, can change into different creatures to get through levels, so it has that dynamic with it. And Xseed Games is what we're going to close this year out with. Corpse Party Blood Drive for the Vita. This is an anime-flavored survival horror game. You're going to notice that all of these kind of have an anime flavor to them, so, you know, you can either run and embrace them or run the other way. You know, it seems like pretty polarizing opinions when it comes to these types of games and whatnot, so whatever. Anime-flavored survival horror game. It's the sequel to Book of Shadows. Came out almost exactly a year ago in Japan. We'll probably have a version stateside by the end of the year. So that's coming soon. There's going to be more Earth Defense Force games for your EDF fans out there. Earth Defense Force 2, Invaders from Planet Space for the Vita, and Earth Defense Force 4.1, The Shadow of New Despair for the PS4. The Shadow of New Despair for the PS4 that I just mentioned, that's going to be an updated port of EDF 2025. That's coming out to Japan by the end of the year. We don't know if it'll get stateside this year or next year or at all, really. They didn't really say anything that I caught. Then there's The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. This is an RPG series that actually started as a spin-off to the Dragon Slayer series. And if you're not familiar with Dragon Slayer, one of the more popular games to come out in the States was Dragon Slayer 4, I think. And Dragon Slayer 4 is also the same game as a little NES game from Rotorbund called Legacy of the Wizard, if you've never played that. Where you had the family of different characters who had different abilities, attributes, power-ups, weapons that can only go to certain places in the underground labyrinth below their house. Like you had the dog that moved slow, or the pet dragon, I think it was, that fired really fast. You had the father figure of the family who could throw axes, but he was really slow. You had the daughter who can jump really high. Then I believe you had the son who wielded the Dragon Slayer, the most powerful sword in the game, to destroy the final boss at the end of the game. So if any of that sounds familiar, that's what the Dragon Slayer series is. This game is a spin-off of that series. This one is the first in a trilogy, so it's going to be the first part of 3. That comes out later this year. Again, that game is called The Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel. That's coming out for the PS3 and the Vita. One Chambera Z2 Chaos, that was announced. That comes out Q3 2015. It's a character action game. Anime out the ass. Let's see. There's Return to Polololo Croyus, a story of seasons fairy tale. I think I pronounced that right. Return to Pololo Croyus, a story of seasons fairy tale for the 3DS. It's an RPG that seems to be a spin-off of the Harvest Moon games. So everyone knows what Harvest Moon is, the farming simulator. That comes out the last quarter of 2015, so look for that at the end of the year. Senran Kagura Investival Versus. I totally butchered that. Senran Kagura Estival Versus for the PS4 and Vita. That's a Dynasty Warriors type game that'll have collectible editions for both the PS4 and Vita. They'll both have different figurines and different track listings on one of the bonus CDs. That comes out Q4 2015 as well. And last but not least, we have Senran Kagura 2 Deep Crimson. That comes out for 3DS. That's a side-scrolling action game that will have limited physical copies in additions to digital copies when it comes out on August 11th. So that's right around the corner. So yeah, limited physical copies. So if you're a fan of that series, pre-order it if you can. Get it on day one if you can, because there's not going to be many physical copies coming stateside. There's a few other things here. Alone in the Dark Illumination. Maybe I'll make a separate video on that for how shitty that game is. I can only imagine how bad this will turn out. Who the fuck did a review on it? I think it was, damn it. What's his name? Popular YouTuber. Fuck, man. I want to say Jim Sterling. I'll put a link in the description so you can go watch how fucking atrocious this game is. Like, I thought it couldn't get any fucking worse than Alone in the Dark, The New Nightmare. I was wrong. So wrong. You don't know how wrong. This game's garbage. I don't think it's any coincidence that this game was released on Steam when they put the refund policy in place. Because, man, I'm sure, unless you're, like, fucking brain dead, you refunded this game if you made the sad mistake of buying it. Because this game fucking sucks. I'm a huge fan of Alone in the Dark, the old games. I think I left a comment on Jim Sterling's video. Again, I think it was Jim Sterling. I'm like 95% sure. But I'll put a link in the description. Go watch this review if you want to see how... If you want to see Alone in the Dark, that once used to be a great, trend-setting, spooky horror game that, you know, part of its charm came from the early 3D graphics in the era. Like, Alone in the Dark, the very first Alone in the Dark was all 3D on the PC, and that came out in 1992. That's how cutting edge this game was. So, like, I'm talking 3D so early you can count the polygons on your character, but it was a great game. It had the atmosphere, it had the voiceovers and the, like, all the text pieces you've read. It was great. Alone in the Dark 2 was great, Alone in the Dark 3 was great. Then the series went downhill. You know what, then the series didn't exist. I mean, I wish they'd make another good game after Alone in the Dark 3, because they sure didn't. The New Nightmare, I don't know what that is. Then they made some bullshit in like 2007, where they just called it Alone in the Dark, where they were going to reboot the series. Yeah, fuck you, Atari. Find another way to make money rather than this pathetic, disgusting cash-in that's Alone in the Dark Illumination. The only illumination going on here is how rock bottom this series has hit. So watch his video, go down to the description, watch his video. It's horrible. A game called Rive was announced for the Wii U. It's a metal-wrecking robot hacking shooter that comes out sometime this year. Extreme Exorcism, a retro side-scrolling adventure where you hunt down different ghosts. That's kind of interesting. No release date. Mutant Mud Super Challenge for the Wii and 3DS, a retro side-scrolling shooter with a twist. The ability to switch between background and foreground. That was kind of interesting. I think they had that gimmick in one of the Donkey Kong Country games for the Wii. I can't remember if it was Returns or Tropical Freeze, but you can like actually go in the background of the stage and see what's going on and come to the forefront of the stage, so there's that extra dimension there. I think that's kind of cool. Typo Man for the Wii U, a 2D adventure game where you use letters to explore and solve puzzles. That has a demo on the eShop as well, so check that out. Steam World Heist for the Wii U is a sequel to Steam World Dig, if you're familiar with that. It's a 2D turn-based combat game featuring steam driver robots in space. Should come out later this year on the 3DS as well. Wolverblade for the Xbox One. This was weird. It's a brawler with a cartoonish medieval look. That comes out this winter. I'm not sure what to think about that one. Bravely Second, End Layer for the 3DS. That's obviously a sequel to Bravely Default. That comes out in 2016. Soul Axiom for the Wii U. Looks like a first-person exploration futuristic title from the trailer. It's one of those. Forma 8 for the Wii U was announced. A side-scrolling exploration game. No release date. I'm pretty sure all of these Wii U games have demos up on the eShop, so definitely check out for that. I'm not 100% sure, though, on the ones I didn't mention not having a demo. a game called Lovely Planet for the Wii U. It's a happy, colorful game about shooting things. No release date, but this is the happiest fucking shooter I've ever seen in my life. Colorful graphics, smiley faces and shit, but it's a shooter. I don't know. Freedom Planet for the Wii U. This is the successfully kickstarted game that drew a lot of inspiration from the classic 2D Sonic games. If you're a fan of the classic Sonic games, you need to check this game out because it looks like what Sonic 4 should have been, pretty much. It looks like a fucking Sonic game. It just does. It looks like a Sonic game. I haven't played it yet, but I'm sure it feels like a Sonic game. It sounds like a Sonic game. Looks like a duck, quacks like a duck. You know what I mean? But yeah, it's already out on PC and comes out August 3rd on the Wii U. Hopefully it comes out to more platforms. I would like to play it on the Xbox One. We'll see about what happens with that. Quantum Rush Champions. This was kind of interesting. This is for Xbox One. It looks like a sequel to Quantum Redshift. If you remember that game from the Xbox. At first, it looks like it, but it's actually not. It looks more on the generic side. While the graphics look better, obviously, game released how many years later than Quantum Redshift is going to look better, at least I hope. There's less personality, no characters, only customizable cars. So it's kind of like a watered down version of what Quantum Redshift used to be. No release date on that. Finally, the last game I have here, guys, is a game called Soccertron for the Xbox One. It's a 4-player arena sports game, so you probably know what that's all about, and that has no release date as well. And that's it. 29 pages of notes here. That's E3 2015, guys. If you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. I don't know why you would, but thank you anyway. Yeah, if you like what you're seeing, obviously, just follow along with my channel and stay tuned, and I will try to have more videos up soon. And as for E3 news, I will see you guys next year. Thank you so much.